Hi guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Flowery. In this video, I'll be showing you how to draft and cut this trendy dress with flowery design at the bottom. If this is something you're interested in learning, stick around and watch this video to the end. Thank you to all those who have subscribed to my channel, and for those who haven't yet and you're seeing this video, please do well to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and also feel free to ask your questions or leave your comments in the comment section. Thank you very much guys. Now let's get started. So these are the measurements I'll need for this tutorial: the bust, waist, hip, the bust point, the under bust, the across back, armhole circumference, the front waistline and the back waistline, the skirt length, and then the hip depth. So you measure out your hip depth from the waistline down to the largest part of your hip. So it is mostly 8 inches, and the larger the hip, the deeper the hip depth. So you just measure out to be sure of what your hip depth is. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to take the chest line measurement. So the chest line is my armhole divided by 2. So I'll mark that and also take my bust point measurement, the under bust measurement, and then the front waistline measurement. So I'll do the same thing on the other side and then connect together. So this is the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust point, the under bust, and then the front waistline. Then this part is the center front, so that part is going to be on fold, and then the other side is the side front. I'm going to take my across back measurements divided by 2. So I have 14 divided by 2, which is 7 inches. I'll take it on the shoulder line and the chest line, and then I'll connect together. Then on the shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and whatever I have left, I'll divide by 2 and mark that point. Then from that point, I'll come in by 0.75. Now on the chest line, I'm going to measure out my bust measurement divided by 4. So I'm going to mark that point and then use my French cuff to connect together for the armhole. Now for my neckline, I'm going to be taking 3 inches for the width and also 3 inches for the depth. And I'm going to connect that with my French cuff and also connect the shoulder slant together. Now I'm going to mark out my nipple to nipple measurements from the chest line down to the waistline. So I have 7 inches divided by 2, which is 3.5. So I'm going to connect that together. Towards the center front, I'm going to come in by 0.5, and towards the side front, I'll go out by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to do the same thing for the under bust, and then I'll connect together. Then I'll connect with my French curve from the under bust to the bust point on both sides. Now on the shoulder slant, I'm going to divide what I have there by 2. So I have 4 inches divided by 2, which is 2 inches, and I'll connect it into the bust point. Now I'll move on to the neckline of the dress, the main neckline of the dress. So this 2 inches is still what I'm going to use. So I'm going to use 2 inches for the shoulder here, and then I'm going to draw out a straight line. You make sure the line is very straight. So I'm going to be measuring out 5 inches like that for the straight line. Then for the depth of the neckline, you can leave it on the chest line, or you can go below if you want it to plunge down a little bit, or you can even go above. So I'm going to leave it on the chest line for this, and from that point of the 5 inches, I'm going to connect it using a sweetheart neckline. Now to prevent gaping on the neckline of the dress, we are going to take in 0.5 inches on both sides, so that way by the time you wear it, it's going to lay well on the chest area. Then I'm going to connect that back into the bust points. Now I'm going to measure out my bust and waist measurements. So I already have my bust measurements here, and then whatever I have here, I'm going to replace it on the chest line. So I have about 0.5. Then on the waistline, I'll divide my waist by 4, and whatever I have there, I'm going to replace it after measuring out the waistline. Then I'll connect together from the chest line to the waistline. Now for the side that, the front waistline is 17 inches while the back waistline is 15 inches. So the difference between that is 2 inches. So I'm going to take it by the side there on the bust point, then connect it into the bust point. So by the time you want to sew this together, the front side and the back side, they are going to align together. So these are the parts that I'll be taking off the pattern paper. So these are the parts we don't need anymore. Now before I proceed to cut out, I'm going to make sure this neckline area aligns well together. So I'm going to replace whatever is lost in that part. So you just fold your pattern paper like this, and then you replace the neckline. You draw out a new neckline. So now I can proceed to cut out. To cover up the side that, you can just cut out like this and stop a little bit before the bust point, and do the same thing at the other side, so it will be easy for you to cover it up, and use your masking tape to close up the side that. Then I'm going to draw out a new line. So guys, this is it for the front pattern. So you can see how it looks like. And then for this part, because the curve is too sharp, so I'm just going to curve it up like this and cut it out. Now let's move on to the back pattern. So for this, I'm going to bring out my zip allowance. I'm using 1 inch for the zip allowance, and I'm going to connect together. Then I'll measure out my chest line and also the back waistline. So I'll do the same thing at the other side and connect together. So here I have my shoulder line, the chest line, and then the back waistline. So this line right here is going to be my center back. Now from the center back line, I'm going to measure out my across back divided by 2. So I'm going to measure it on the shoulder line and the chest line. Then I'll come down by 1 inch on the shoulder line, and whatever I have left I'll divide by 2 and mark that point. Then from that point I'll come in by 0.5 inches. Now on the chest line, I'm going to take my bust measurement divided by 4. So I'm taking it from the center back line. Then I'm going to connect my armhole. So for the neckline, I'm going to use the 3 inches I used for the neck width at the front and then 1 inch for this part. Then I'm going to connect together and draw out my shoulder slants. Now on the center back line, I'm going to go in by 1 inch and then I'll connect it back into the chest line. Then from that new point, I'm going to measure out my waistline divided by 4 plus 1 inch for that. Then I'll connect from the chest line to my waistline. Now for the dart, I'll also be using the 3.5 inches I used at the front. So I'm going to be taking the dart from the original center back line on the chest line and on the waistline. Then I'm going to go in by 0.5 on both sides and I'll connect the darts together. Now for the back neckline, I'm going to use the same 2 inches I used at the front and I'm going to connect down with a straight line. So if you want it to be deeper, you can make it deeper, but I'm going to use the same 5 inches I used at the front for this. Then for the neck depth, I'm going to be using 7 inches, which is the chest line. So you can decide to go above or you can decide to go below than that 7 inches. So I'm just going to leave it at the chest line here. Now connect together with this curve. So this is it for my back, and then I'll proceed to cut it out. So guys, this is it for the back pattern. So let's move on to the skirt part of this dress. So this is the front pattern for the skirt part of this dress. So I'm going to measure out the hip depth, which is 8 inches, and then I'm going to measure out the skirt length. So I'm going to leave it at 36 inches as this length of the paper is. So I'm also going to measure out the hip depth on the other side and then the length. Now I'm going to connect together. So here is the waistline, this is the hip depth, and then that is the hem line or the skirt length. So this part is going to be the center front, which is going to be on fold by the time you want to cut it. Now on the waistline, I'm going to take my waist measurements divided by 4 plus 1 inch for that. So the dress is going to have a dart at the skirt part also. Now on the hip depth, I'm going to take my hip measurement divided by 4. Then on the hem line, I'm going to take the hip measurement divided by 4 minus 1.5 inches. So if you want it to be a pencil dress like that, so you can just subtract 1.5 inches from the measurement of the hip after dividing it by 4. Now to fix in the darts for the skirt, this is what you are going to do so that it's going to align with the upper part. So I'm just going to put that together. That is the front pattern of the top part of this dress. So I'm just going to put that on the skirt and then mark out that point. Then I'm going to take 1 inch away from that point and then mark out the midpoint. So that midpoint is where you're going to be drawing out a long line for the darts. So I'm going to be taking 5 inches for the front parts of these darts. So after measuring out the 5 inches, you can then proceed to connect the darts together. So by the time you sew up the skirt part, the darts of this skirt part, and by the time you want to join it to this top, it's going to align together. So this is it for the front pattern. Then I'm just going to blend the part of the hip in. So if the hip is coming out sharp like this, just blend it in with your curve so that it's not going to be too sharp. Now let's move on to the back pattern of the skirt. So I'm going to measure out 1 inch for the zip allowance, exactly how we did for the back pattern of the top part. Now I'll measure out the hip depth 8 inches and also measure out the skirt length. So I'm going to do the same thing at the other side and connect together. So this is the waistline, the hip depth, and then the hem line or the skirt length. And then this is the center back line. Now on the center back line, I'm going to go in by 1 inch. So the same thing I did for the back pattern, that is what I'll be doing for this part too. So I'm going in by 1 inch and connecting it back to the hip depth. So this right here is going to be the new zip allowance. Now this new point of the zip allowance is where I'm going to be taking my waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for that. Then on the hip depth, I'm going to be taking my hip divided by 4. So from that center back line, that is where I'll be taking the measurements. Then for the hem line, I'm also going to take the hip divided by 4 minus 1.5 inches. So the same thing I did for the front, the same measurement I used for the front is what I'll use for the back too. Then I'll connect them together. So I'm going to blend this part into with my curve. So to fix in the dart for the back pattern, I'm also going to take the back pattern of the top that we already made. So I'm going to put it together like this from the zip allowance part, then mark out the dart there. So that is just an easy way to fix in the dart for this back pattern. So I'm going to mark that out and extend the point at the middle by 6 inches. So I'm going to be using 6 inches for the length of the dart for this back pattern. Then I'm going to connect them together. So after doing that, I'm going to proceed to cut out what I have. So guys, this is the back pattern of this dress for the top and also the skirt part. Now let's move on to the flowery design on the dress. So I already drew out a line on the paper, and then I'm going to draw out another line like this. Then I'm going to make this circle just as a guide for me. Then I'm going to measure out 4 inches on the lines. So the 4 lines that I have there, I'll measure out 4 inches. So you can use your French curve or your free hand to curve it out from that point that we made to the circle that we have there. So you just proceed to do that. So guys, this is the flowery design looking pretty. So you can go ahead to cut it out. So this is how it looks like after cutting out. Now guys, this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed this video. So you can proceed to cut this out on your fabric and add all the necessary allowances that you need to add there. If you watched this video to the end and still haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do not leave without subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up and also share to your families and to your friends. Thank you very much for watching guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.